think that there are 6 factors in our success, and I'd like to share them with you. There's the product itself, there's branding and design, there's the ethics which underpin our brand, and there's PR. And they're not rocket science, but I honestly think that you don't have to reinvent the wheel to create a successful brand. You just have to do what you do very well. And of course, the other aspects are what today is all about, which are management, good management and leadership. Because, you know, growing a brand to £100 million doesn't happen unless you inspire others to share that journey with you every single step of the way. And you really do continually have to prioritise, because in business there is always this pull to deal with the urgent in favour of the important. So it's a kind of ongoing process. And I truly believe the cliche that every opportunity, every problem can be turned into an opportunity. And I've no doubt that in the coming months, those of us in business are still going to face many difficult challenges, not least because we have no idea yet what the impact of the government's cuts are going to be on people's disposable income. But you know, my advice to entrepreneurs is always get out and get all of the free help that enterprise agencies and Business Link and you know, universities like this, etc. Friends who've been there, done that, ironed the t-shirt, anything that anybody can offer. Most definitely come to events like this, and be prepared to brainstorm, because anything that an entrepreneur can do to help them think outside the box makes it so much easier to deal with those problems that seem insurmountable when you're sitting at your desk with 3,783 emails to answer and a pile of invoices to pay and your staff looking expectantly over your shoulder. Certainly for us, coming up with new ideas to keep the brand fresh and to grow it and trigger a fresh surge of publicity was really, really important. And for Craig and me, some of our best ideas, how we continually managed to focus on the important and not just the urgent, was actually we took an hour-long walk every single night around Notting Hill where we lived at the time, and we would throw ideas around, we would discuss issues with staff, we would have brainwaves about new products, and we would have to stop every night outside Cath Kidston's first shop while I licked the window. I've also read lots and lots of business books over the last 20 years. I've basically always got one on the go. And I've tried to learn something useful from each of them. And I think one of the most important pieces of advice, most useful, came from Martha Stewart, who was the world's first self-made billionaire. And she said that in business you need a microscope and a telescope. You need a microscope so that you can look at the detail of your business and get the detail right. But you need that telescope because you need to be able to stand back and look at the bigger picture. And there is that tendency always to focus on the urgent and do the firefighting and not get that bigger picture. But I have to say that all of the really effective leaders that I have met have managed to retain that kind of long view, no matter what day-to-day challenges were thrown at them. And all my experience as a leader and a manager is that basically you have to be incredibly flexible. You know, staff come, staff go. People get sick. Cash flow challenges hit you in the face. Buildings start to fall apart, machinery starts to fall apart, the computer dies, and basically Murphy's Law being what it is, they tend all to happen at the same time. So it's absolutely crucial, I think, to live in the solution and not in the problem. And I see plenty of people who are caught like rabbits in headlights whenever there's a problem like that, and they can't see their way through. So, this might be a bit woo-woo for you, but what works for me is yoga and meditation. Meditating gives me just amazing mental clarity. I can just see my way through things. And yoga keeps me physically strong and also flexible. And actually, one of my yoga teachers has a great phrase. She says, flexible spine, flexible mind. And I think she's absolutely right. If I could have done anything differently, I would have liked to have been more strategic about our business trajectory. But the problem was that we were a pioneering organic brand, and this was the days before there was a kind of culture of small brands being gobbled up by large ones. So basically we flew by the seat of our pants a lot of the time because we never quite knew where the next opportunity was going to come from, and they came thick and fast. But there came a stage at the end of the 90s when we realised that to go on to the next level, we really had to take in some investment. And we did that in 2 stages. And the team that we decided to go with, we felt were a really good fit in every way. They had previously taken the new Covent Garden Soup Company from a £2 million a year brand to a £28 million a year brand, £22 million a year brand, and sold it for 28 million. And there were real parallels with Green and Blacks. You know, they were both what I call discovery brands, which is that although that they were quite widely available, people felt like they were their secret discovery, and they were very, very loyal to it. But actually, a lot of my time these days is spent informally advising people about the emotional aspects of their exit strategy. You know, they're often overshadowed by the financial aspects, but I think it's equally important because it's a decision that you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. And I should say that when we started Green and Blacks, we didn't even know what an exit strategy was. You know, and I think if I had ultimately thought on day one that my little company might ultimately be successful enough to be bought by Cadbury, I might have been too scared to jump off that diving board. And that's why I think it has to be about the journey and not always being fixed on the destination. I'm often asked about my leadership secrets, and they're actually really rather simple. I think you need to lead by example. I think I've never been afraid of hard work, and I think anyone who works for me will tell you that. I've always just rolled up my sleeves and got on with it. I've brought my values to work, and I've tried to do good when I'm doing business. And I think that really does help to cement loyalty. One very important lesson that I did learn, though, from a previous boss was that you have to leave a bit of emotional distance between you and your team. I remember inviting a aforementioned old boss to dinner, and he turned me down. He said, to be perfectly honest, Joe, he said, I don't go to dinner with my employees, he said, because I've always found that it makes it much harder to fire them later if you've eaten their cooking. It certainly kept me on my toes, I can tell you. But my other rules, I say, pretty basic. 1, be prepared to work harder than you ever thought possible. 2, try to do good while you're doing business, and you will be repaid many times over. 3, have fun. You only live once. Bring your sense of humour to work. You know, I love the sound of laughter in an office. Probably not behind me, but hey. Make your staff feel like part of a team. You know, in the past, companies have always spent lots of money on things like paintballing or assault courses to try to create a strong team. But you know, I think I have great admiration for companies these days that get their staff together to do some guerrilla gardening or painting a homeless shelter or, you know, old people's home or something. You know, and I think actually that's even more effective when it comes to bonding a team together, because what you're doing is they're not just getting shared experiences, you're actually helping to build a set of shared values, which is tremendously powerful. Point 5, as Barry says, don't ask anybody to do anything you wouldn't do yourself. I don't clean the loos, but I have unblocked them. I don't get nearly so many calls about unblocking the loos. I don't know whether it's a plumbing thing or just the fact that they know I would do it, but they don't bother to ask anymore. Do take advantage of every single bit of free help that is available. I think it's amazing. You know, a lot of this wasn't in place when we started Green and Blacks, or I really would have gobbled it all up. And 7, very importantly, harness the power of publicity to spread the message about what you're doing. It would be wrong, of course, not to acknowledge that I've had a lot of help from some fantastic people along the way. And in most cases, actually, people who work for me have stayed for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. I have somebody working for me at the moment who's been with me for 13 years. And that saves endlessly having to recruit new people and train them. What's absolutely key for me, though, is listening to my inner voice when it comes to appointing staff. You know, the only times I have ever screwed up on staff selection have been when I've gone by somebody's stellar CV and listened to my head instead of my heart when making that appointment. And, you know, then discovered that it might have looked fabulous on paper, but They turned out just not to get on with people, or to be a negative thinker, or a clock watcher. And those are all things which you don't read on a CV, or even in a reference. I have just 3 golden rules of employment. As I say, work should be fun for people, or why would they bother to get out of bed to go there? The working environment should be attractive. You know, I think nice pictures on the walls, flowers. People spend more waking hours in the office than they do at home, so it should be as nice as home, basically. Lovely mugs, nice filing boxes, thank you IKEA, none of these cost a fortune anymore. And actually this is a really important part of my management strategy, but as long as people get the job done, I don't care when they do it. For me, clock watching is absolutely out. I don't care if somebody comes in early and finishes early. I don't care if they come in late and finish late. You know, I think 9 to 5 mentality. 9 to 5 breeds a 9 to 5 mentality. And so if they want to skip lunch and pick their kids up from school, that's absolutely fine. I had 2 single working mothers who worked for me over the years, Clooney and Gale, and you know they had children who occasionally got sick, or they needed to go to carol concerts and sports days. And I think that my flexibility in understanding those tugs on their time was repaid 10 times over with their loyalty. I will say that obviously now I'm a retailer, and it's much harder because you need people there when you need them there. But I still believe in juggling rotas as much as possible, because I think it does bring you massive amounts of extra loyalty in return. So basically, for me, Green and Blacks is still like my firstborn child. Even though we don't own a single share anymore, but I don't think we'll ever stop caring about it like protected parents. I like to think of it now as it's grown up, it's moved away from home, and it's got a job with a multinational, and you have to be quite proud of that. But it all means basically I still find myself putting in 80 nowadays. I can't remember the last time I had a Sunday off, an entire Sunday anyway. But I consider myself incredibly lucky to do something I love, and I can't imagine slowing down until I absolutely am forced to. But above all, what all of my business experiences have told me is that work has to be about your passion, and not just about the kind of carrot of the pension at the end of it.